my crafty friends, it's Marie from Marie's Crafty Creations VT. I'm coming to you today to try a new technique that I hadn't tried before. We're going to be using the Moon Lake stamp, and I'm going to be using a piece of vellum. So what I'm going to do is stamp this bird image on the front of the piece of vellum and then use my stylus to kind of raise it up from the back. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here's vellum. In case you didn't know, it's this clear, like, can't quite see through it, but it's a little opaque, I guess would be the word you'd use. So I'm going to use some black StazOn ink and ink up my bird stamp and get that in the center of the vellum. I'm going to flip it over since it's curling a little bit. Alright. Get that in the center. Let that dry for just a second. So then what I'm going to do is flip it over. I'm going to take my stylus. It's got a skinny end and a fat end. And I'm just going to scribble on the tree branches and the bird. And it does take a little bit of pressure. And what this is going to do is pop up the other side of the vellum so it feels raised when you have it on your card. I don't know how well on the camera it will show up, but... And it will also leave a lovely image on your piece of paper. But this part here is lifted up. You can feel that it's not flat like the rest of it. I'm going to keep it flipped over, and what I'm going to do is take my Sharpies, or you can use your blendability markers or your Stampin' Up markers. I just happen to have more varieties of colors in the Sharpie, and I'm going to color on the back of this image. So I'm going to take the bird and color this blue. And you don't have to, as long as you're staying within the outside lines, really worry about where the color is going. I'm going to take some brown for these stems here. And then for the little flowers, I'm just going to color them random little colors. And then for the grass, I'm just going to do some green. Kind of trace around them. So that's what it looks like when you flip it over. Just some nice soft color to your image. I'm going to set that aside and actually bring up my Big Shot. And in there I have my magnetic platform. with one really beaten up cutting plate. Okay, so we have a piece of brown paper on the Big Shot on one of the clear cutting plates, and what I'm going to do is use my square framelits and get the big one down and then line up the center one so that it's even all the way around as best that you can. Put your other clear plate over it and run it through the Big Shot. So when you take it out, you have a middle square, which you can use for another card, and then you have the frame. This is what I'm looking for the front of the card. So then I'm going to switch from the magnetic platform to the regular platform. And you open that up to tab 1. And actually, for this particular folder that I'm using, I'm going to open it all the way. I know that's not what you normally do, but because I find that with this wood grain, with my Big Shot, that it will tear the paper if I don't use it a little more open. I think it puts too much pressure on it. So you put down my really beat up cutting pad, center that, close it up, set it down, and then you're going to take your other clear plastic plate and run that through the Big Shot. So it's going to give you a piece of paper that looks like a nice piece of wood. So before I take the Big Shot away, I am going to use the magnetic plate one more time. Put that down, a really beat up plate. And then this piece of paper that we just embossed, I'm going to take the smaller of the square frames that we just used and try to line it up center into this piece of paper, because we're going to cut out a window for our little bird to sit in. Cover that with a clear plate and run that through. Again, another little square that you can use for another project, and your opening for the front of your card. Let me put the Big Shot away. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is line these up together so that our bird is in our window. I'm just going to take some mini glue dots and stick that to the back of this tan piece of paper. Just around the hole so that it stays when we glue it all to the rest of the card. I just put 4 glue dots on the back of there. Probably be easier if I do it this way. I'm going to take a piece of white ribbon and add it to the back of this before we glue it down. That way you can't see. You don't have to worry about it on the front. Then I'm going to take a solid brown card that's been folded in half and adhere this piece to the front of that. Okay. Then you're going to take this frame and glue it right here to the outside of that picture so it kind of neatens up where that hole is cut out. I'm just going to use a little bit of the clear combo glue. You don't need a lot all the way around the outside because you don't want it to squish out when you lay it down. The good thing about this glue is it gives you a little wiggle room, so if you get it put down and the first time you don't quite get it in the right spot, you can, well, see, you can push it around a little bit. But once you hold it for a little, it will stick right into place. And it's clear, so it doesn't leave a mess if you do end up getting it outside anywhere. Like that. I'm going to set that aside for now. I'm going to take a scrap piece of the color, and out of the same Moon Lake set, I'm going to use the sentiment Thinking of You, and I'm going to stamp that in baked brown sugar. So you just tap onto the ink pad. I know a lot of girls in class will like to smush it down and then they end up with ink around the outside and then have a hard time not transferring that onto their card, like I just did right there, like I just told you not to do. There, that one's much better. So I'm going to use the word window punch to punch that out. And then I'm going to adhere it to a scrap piece of the brown paper, the dark brown. And then take the second punch up and punch it out. This makes it easier to line it up and get it centered and straight without having to try to glue it that way by punching it out first. So that's just a little trick for that. And then I'm going to take some dimensionals and pop that onto the front of our card. I tend to use 3 because I don't like them to sag in the middle. You may just use 1, you could use 2, it's up to you, however you like to do it. For me personally, I prefer the 3. I'm going to get that in the center here. And I think I'll just take a little piece of the white ribbon and tie a little knot to finish up the, so it's not quite so plain. So take it right to the side. And just trim up your ends. And if you don't want that knot to move, you can just stick a little glue dot behind there so that that will hold into place. I hope you enjoyed this card. Please feel free to join me on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page at Marie's Crafty Creations VT. Thanks for joining me.